Last year, you came out with a book in 2019, The Greatest You. Phenomenal book. I had an opportunity to read that, but I'm really excited because this year, I think in August, you're going to be releasing a brand new book called Straight Up. Honest, unfiltered, as real as I can put it, advice for life biggest challenges. Give us some input, not some input, but some secrets about what's in the book. What can we expect? Who is it for? And how will it impact us, bro?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this one. Like The Greatest You, I don't want to take away from it.
Yeah.
I love The Greatest You.
Yeah.
But I felt like The Greatest You was for a reader. You know, it's an easy read, but it's still for a reader. And I'm a person, I'll just be honest with you. Like, even to this day, I don't enjoy reading
Come
books.
on, man.
I do it because I know that I need to obtain knowledge that I don't have.
Yes, sir.
And so when I sourced this book, because it's tailored to youth, and I just did a source through my Snapchat, and I was like, hey, how many of y'all read books? They were like, none of us read books. And I was like, man, what could I do to actually impact? And so I went to my son and I said, like, how would you like to read if I gave you something that was short? I mean, every single day that was to the point where you read. And he was like, yes, I would do it. And so this book, Straight Up, if you love my videos, if you love any content I put out, this book is going to really speak to you. I feel like it is me in written form from the video. And so it's 52 lessons that I'm straight up about.
Okay.
It has 12 sections in there. So I'm straight up about relationships. I'm straight up about sex. I'm straight up about pain and suffering. I'm straight up about your environment. So I wrote this from a place of talking into the 13, 15, 16, 22, 23, even the 30-year-old Trent. What were the things that I would have wanted people in my life to be straight up about? Now, my father, great man. He's been straight up with me about a lot of things. But just even things like about sex, they don't tell you why not to have sex. Obviously, you just don't do it. But like all these things can come with it. Like having a child prematurely could take away from your dreams. It's expensive.
Yes.
These things I wish I would have knew. So it's very unfiltered. It's still kid friendly.
Yeah.
But it's stuff that kids really need to hear. And if you're a parent out there that you're trying to get through to your kids, sometimes it's hard to do that. Even with my son, you know, I'm dad to him. So I'm always
How old is your son?
Try to bring another voice. Tristan is 11 years old.
11 years old. All right. So let's go there. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about relationships. Let's talk to me like I'm your son. I'm your 11-year-old son right now. And I come to you and I say, Pops, what are the first couple of things I need to know about relationships and building healthy relationships? Or maybe I'm interested into a girl. Like, how would you start that conversation with me as an 11-year-old Anthony O'Neal?
Yeah. So it's funny because he just went through a breakup. I mean, I'm not laughing at that, but yeah. he went through
11 years old, he went through a breakup?
Yeah.
Oh, you a good daddy letting him date at 11. I ain't gonna be real with you, man. Oh, Lord.
So he went through his breakup, and I mean, he handled it like a champ. You know, he understood, and maybe it's because, you know, he's around, he sees, I mean, from my wife, just from me, but he handled it like a champ, and we just had a conversation. You know, I asked, you know, of course, why did she break up with you? And obviously we're moving, she's moving, all this different stuff, right? It was like super deep for an 11-year-old conversation. the things that I tell them is, and that's the thing too. I mean, when we think about when we were younger, like the advancement of like where 11-year-old is now is just like they're like 22. It's crazy. So the things that I tell him though is first, you have to have a relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
The thing that I tell Tris is like, man, you have to know who you are. I really implement like understanding his emotions, understanding his worth and his value, because if you don't know these things, if you don't have a vision of those things and understand it, then it's very hard to navigate the relationships because you don't know exactly what you want. You end up selling for less, etc. So that's the first place. The second place is, you know, I think it's just the common law is, you know, treat others how you want to be treated.
That's good.
And so if you expect respect, if you want people to give you respect, you have to be able to give it. That's not just in, you know, relationships, but friendships also. And so I'm always telling him to be an example of what you wish to receive. And that's the message that I impart on him. And I mean, in this, I'm talking about how to deal with heartbreak, red flags in relationships.
Yeah.
And we talk about sex in this book. So those are the 3 relationship topics we touch on.
You know what? I appreciate you for doing this because, you know, I'm going to be real. With my parents growing up, I had two real conversations, like two important conversations. The very first conversation was about the law, what to do if I'm approached by the police, how to get home, how do I respond, how do I get to them so they can protect and provide for me there. Then the second conversation was the law from a biblical perspective. Like, hey, here's how you do not go to hell. Don't have sex. Right. Don't rob. Don't do this. Don't do that. If you do this, you're going to hell. And we want you to go to heaven. But I never had the conversation that, sex was made by God, and relationships are good, the right ones that are good. And here's what you should do with your money. Here's how you build wealth. And I was raised by four amazing parents. I have two biological parents and two amazing step parents, and I'm grateful because I am the man who I am today because of my parents. But this book, I was going through earlier, just some of the chapters and some of the stuff that you have in your book, like lesson 5 in chapter 2. Chapter 2 is about past hurts and excuses. Burn some bridges. Comparison is death. But how to forgive someone. That's not just for 11-year-old, bro.
No.
That's for grown people too. Are you seeing that with young people? They're having a problem, like they hold grudges?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think a lot of times it is learned. I mean, obviously what you see is what you're going to become. So if, I'm even conscious of that, like with my children, like sometimes I might say like, man, I don't forgive this person, not in those words, but I'm noticing that they're seeing that. And so I'm always working on that for myself because sometimes it's hard to forgive people. But the thing that I tell my kids, and I want to give it away, everything in this book, because I want people to read it. But the thing that I tell my kids, and I would tell people in general, is that obviously we know forgiveness is for ourselves, because if you don't forgive, then that person has the power to control your life. And so what's really helped me in that aspect is it doesn't excuse the behavior, but I refuse to allow someone who did me wrong in my past continue to control my future because I'm not willing to forgive them, right? It's like carrying a weight. Wow. And so many people, just think about this, so many people are a reflection of the hurt that someone else gave them. Mm-hmm. Like even in the world that we're living in now, we see hatred, we see people, it's usually because you've been hurt. Hurt people. And I just refuse in my life, and I just try to preach as much as I can, like, you don't want to be the thing. You don't want to become the thing that you hated. You don't want to be the pain that someone else gave you, because that's how cycles are created. Right. So forgiveness frees you from that. And it's tough, but it's necessary for your future and your growth.
No, you're right, man. It was about 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, I was engaged to an amazing young lady. And she hit me with something that I wasn't expecting. It hurt. It hurt. And I had to walk away from the relationship, from the engagement. She decided at the last minute that she didn't want any more kids. And I was like, well, wait, I'm too young and I don't have any kids. I want kids. And we talked about this. And so I had to walk away respectfully, peacefully. But you're right. Because I was hurt, the very first thing, I jumped into another dating thing, and I hurt that young lady because I wasn't healed, because I didn't take the time to heal. And I became, like you said, the thing I didn't want to become. And so I quickly got out of that, apologized to her, owned up to that as a man. And I stepped back and I went to counseling. I went and seen a therapist. I went and saw a therapist, and I just spent some time to heal because I do not want to hurt people. And so, man, I appreciate you giving this wisdom and knowledge to younger people, because what you're doing in this book is creating a whole person. You're helping them mature. So when they graduate high school, when they graduate college, they're coming out completely just a little more wiser than what I came out at 18 and 19 years old. And that's needed.